Now, for all you OG subscribers out there that's been subbed to my channel since day one, you may remember one of the first videos I done was Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I'm sure we can all see from the footage that's on screen just now from that very same video, I've come a long way. Well, at least in production value anyway, so I think it's about time I cover this absolute classic. Mario Kart 64 for the Nintendo 64. I hope you enjoy. So after the Super Nintendo Entertainment System reached its absolute peak, and all that could be done with the system had been, it was time to move on to a newer system and take the previous console's biggest hits and franchises along with it. In 1995, the Ultra 64 would be announced to the world, but it wouldn't be until the E3 event of 1996 where we'd get a more in-depth look at the system, showcasing its stunning graphics and its capability of producing 3D games. By now, the system would change names from the Ultra 64 to the Nintendo 64. We would also see footage of a new Mario Kart that was going by the name of Mario Kart R. The R stood for rendered, really shoving it in the viewers' and players' faces just how advanced the Nintendo 64 really was at the time. Mario Kart 64 was originally meant to be a launch title for the system, but more time and resources would go into Mario 64. So it gave the team more time to work on Mario Kart. The game would finally be released in 1996, around 6 months after the console release itself. Mario Kart 64 follows the same formula as the first Mario Kart. You have 8 characters to choose from, including 2 new characters, which are Donkey Kong and Wario, with Donkey Kong Jr. and Koopa Trooper being removed as playable characters in this game. Which makes sense, I guess, after the success of Wario Land on the Game Boy, and of course, the Donkey Kong trilogy on the SNES. Each playable character is split into 3 different groups: lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight, with their own pros and cons. The lightweight characters like Toad, Princess Peach, and Yoshi can accelerate faster. It's also less painful getting back on track after being pushed into tougher terrain. They also have a slightly faster top speed. Some of the cons though with the lightweight characters include losing speed when turning corners if they aren't skidding round them correctly, and if they come into contact with a heavyweight character, they will just spin out. The middleweights like Mario and Luigi are very balanced. The heavyweights like Bowser and Donkey Kong share the same pros and cons to the lightweights but the opposite way around. Slower to get back on track after being pushed onto tougher terrain, and takes a bit longer to reach top speeds. It's best you play for a while to find a character suitable to your playing style. You take the character of your choosing across 4 tournaments that use the same names from Super Mario Kart on the SNES. These include the Mushroom, Flower, Star, and Special Cup. Each tournament has 4 courses to race on, bringing the total course count to 16. 4 less than the previous game in the series, however they totally make up for that. For each race you complete, depending on where you finish, you'll be granted with points which tally up across the 4 courses you race in, and hopefully by the end you'll be number 1 on the podium with a gold trophy, completing that tournament and moving on to the next. Congratulations! The course designs in this game for the most part are great also, and if you play the tournaments in the correct order, especially if this is your first time playing this, you'll notice the earlier tracks ease you in gently with them being fairly basic in the first 2 tournaments, and not throw many obstacles in your way. They save that for the later tournaments where there'll be more things on the track for you to avoid, and much tighter corners to take. The game is very vibrant in colour, really keeping true to the series up to that point when comparing the earlier 2D games in the Mario world. Bright in the right places, and going for a more darker look for courses designed after specific characters like Bowser. Also, with it being a new game on a newer console at the time, they managed to include elevation in tracks, unlike the first Mario Kart where you're mainly racing on flat land due to the limitation of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This brings more depth and feel to courses, giving you big jumps and gaps to clear, and just generally gives more life to the game. They also done a good job incorporating the Mario franchise into the game, not just with the playable characters but the surroundings too, with some players having their own unique courses made for them. You have Bowser's castle with obstacles to avoid like lava pits, and enemies like thomps that try and block your path. Donkey Kong's Jungle Parkway has a good jump mid-course, and if you go off the intended path you'll get things thrown at you. I think they're coconuts? Princess Peach's castle also makes an appearance in this too. If you go slightly off track on the course Royal Raceway, you can mess around outside it. For the most part, the courses are fantastic and a lot of fun to race on, but there is one course in particular that after doing this playthrough again after many years, I've come to the decision I don't like it, and that is Rainbow Road. There's not one course in the game I find absolutely boring other than this one. It's such a huge departure from the first game. Rainbow Road on the SNES was my absolute favourite track on that game. Check it out for yourself. No barriers on the side of the course, tight cornering that requires pinpoint accuracy when drifting, many thumps that can block your path, and on top of all that, a great soundtrack too. The Nintendo 64's version of Rainbow Road just goes on forever with next to no obstacles apart from a couple of chain chomps that are incredibly easy to avoid. And also, an incredibly boring soundtrack accompanies this version of Rainbow Road. It's definitely my least favourite in the game. Apart from Rainbow Road, all the other courses have a great soundtrack. Koopa Troopa Beach has to be my favourite theme in this game. I can honestly just picture myself lying in a hammock in some place like Jamaica, drinking cans of Red Stripe with this playing on in the background. With the later levels throwing in more obstacles and more precise cornering, the game makes sure you're fully equipped to handle all this with how tight and responsive the controls are. You have your usual A to accelerate, B to brake, and of course you use the control stick for steering. The right bumper is for skidding round corners, and if pulled off correctly by holding on to it for a brief period of time, you'll receive a little boost on the end of it to take you back up to your top speed. The Z button is used for items. That's pretty much a staple in the Mario Kart series now. There are many of these boxes with question marks on them spread throughout the courses. Driving through one of these will grant you an item that you can use to your advantage. These range from mushrooms to give you a little boost, green and red shells. Red shells lock onto your opponent automatically, while the green shells you have to aim manually. Bananas make a comeback too, both single bananas and in bundles. Lightning bolts that make your opponent smaller and slows the speed down of their carts. You can also run them over in this state too. There are also fake item boxes when, if laid in the right spot, can fool people into thinking they're an ordinary item box, and if they try and drive through one of these, it takes them clean out the game. Blue shells make a debut in the series, but I didn't see them much when playing on single player. They really save them for the multiplayer side of the game, which I'll get into soon. Here's a good tip for you though. When you have got an item but you're not ready to use it, equip it by holding the Z button down. Doing this will free up your item box space, meaning you can drive through another item box so you can be granted with a new item, meaning you can carry two separate items at once. All in, it's a great experience and of course a huge upgrade from the previous game in the series, but there's one serious problem I have with it, and that's the rubber banding AI opponents. You can genuinely be better than the AI, but they always seem to catch up no matter how great you're playing. There was times I had mushroom items while in first place, and when I used them, the person in second was still right up my arse. I feel as if there is no reward for being genuinely good at the game, because no matter how good you're playing, there's always someone right behind you, so the slightest mess up while heading for the finish line will result in you not coming first. There was a couple of times I resorted to being cheap, not because I wanted to, but I had to because of the rubber banding AI. A good example would be in the Wario Stadium course. At the start, hold back from the pack because you generally get better items the further back you are. I was hopeful in getting the lightning bolt item, and I did, and waited for this jump in the course. If you use it at the right spot, it will spin out your opponents and shrink them, resulting in them not being able to make the jump and ending up halfway back through the track again. Bullshit on my part, I know, but I had no choice. Now I do realise the first game had this issue too, but I found it a lot more unbearable in this game than I did the previous one. I also do understand why they have rubber banding AI opponents. It's to make it somewhat fair so you're not just blazing away from everyone, but they don't need to be right up my arse the whole time. Anyways, once you have completed the whole game getting gold trophies in all the tournaments and in each speed class, you'll not only unlock a new menu screen, ooh fancy, but also Extra Mode, which many refer to as Mirror Mode. Extra Mode is simply all the courses mirrored, left turns are now right, and obstacles are switched sides. It's a nice and fresh way to experience these courses again, adding a little twist which makes them feel new again. They can also catch you off guard a bit too. A great example would be on the course Toad's Turnpike. In normal mode you'll race along with the traffic, weaving in and out to avoid contact. In mirror mode, you do the same thing but you're now driving towards the oncoming traffic. It's bloody intense. If that's not enough, then you can go for time trial mode, which lets you race on any course of your choosing, setting the best lap and race times. You can save these and race against your ghost to see if you can beat it. I remember back in the day while I was out at a shopping centre here in Edinburgh called The Guile. There was a kiosk with Mario Kart and there was a competition to beat one of the guy's ghosts on any track that he set one on. I beat his ghost on the course Choco Mountain and I received a cool Mario Kart 64 t-shirt. Sadly that's long gone now. It was bloody massive on me anyway. One of the biggest selling points for the new Nintendo 64 console was the support for multiplayer. Not just 2 or 3, but 4 controller slots on the console, and Mario Kart 64 used this to its full advantage. Now with it being locked down and restrictions still in place, I cannot showcase the 4-player support, so 2-player will have to do. This is where you'll find most of the fun. As good as the single player is, the multiplayer is really where it's at. Many hours of fun can be had in multiplayer mode and it really will test your relationship with friends and family members. You can play through championship mode across the 4 different tournaments like single player. They do make this more chaotic by throwing in a lot of the harder to dodge items like the lightning bolt and the blue shells I mentioned earlier. I remember back when I was younger, the blue shell caused many fallouts and arguments within the family. I remember my brother in particular literally screaming because he was in first place and begging the rest of us not to jeopardise this by throwing an item at him. Of course someone had to throw a blue shell at him and he wasn't happy. Really great times in my childhood I'll cherish for the rest of my days. They have also included the battle mode from the original SNES Mario Kart, where both players start with 3 balloons attached to their cart, and the aim of the game is to burst your opponent's balloons by using items you find in each of the 4 battle stadiums. Much like the tournaments in multiplayer, this can provide great laughs for the folk playing along. Here's a little thing I only found out recently. If you emulate this game on PC, there is a way to play it online against your friends. I had done this recently with a mate and had loads of fun. I won't bore you on how to do this as there's many videos already online showing you how to, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it really blew my mind being able to play the Nintendo 64 online. It done incredibly well on release as you'd expect from a Mario based game. It currently stands as the 2nd best selling game for the Nintendo 64, and according to Wikipedia it has sold 9.87 million copies worldwide, which is absolutely insane. It is a great game in the series and I have a lot of good memories from my youth playing it. If you haven't given it a bash yourself, I would recommend it, although I feel like personally the original on the SNES slightly nudges it for me. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. I've just noticed I've gone past 100 subscribers, which is absolutely incredible, so thank you very much. I'd also love to hear your opinions of this game down in the comments, so feel free to leave one. Thanks for watching and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. See ya!